So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 20 biggest travel mistakes that I've made, my friends have made, people I've met abroad have made, and it's caused them so much hassle that I thought, right, this is what I have to talk about next, because it's so easy to make these really simple errors when you're going traveling, and you can easily avoid them before you even leave the country. So I'm basically going to be talking about what they are and what you can do to avoid them. So if you like the video, then please subscribe. There'll be loads more travel advice videos coming. I've had so many different experiences that I'm going to share with you guys, so when you go on your adventures, hopefully they'll be trouble-free. So, mistake number 1, packing too much. This has to be the worst thing, and also the most common thing that any traveller can do, because you get so excited to go somewhere, especially if you're going on a girls' holiday, for example, and you're like, oh, I need this dress and like 5 pairs of shoes, and oh, but what about this outfit for this particular day? And you just end up packing so much stuff, and you don't wear half of it, you don't need most of it. You actually are just causing yourself a lot more hassle and a lot more weight. And for a week away, if you're just dragging your suitcase from the airport to your hotel, it's not the end of the world. But if you're traveling long term, or you're going to a few different areas and places, if you've got to carry all that stuff on your back, or even just drag it along in a suitcase, it's so not worth it, and you're just going to end up resenting your kit. So packing too much is 100% the worst mistake you can make. So the second biggest travel mistake that a lot of people seem to make is booking without checking the details. So when you're in a hurry, or you're really excited and you've maybe been shopping around online a lot, and you're just like, right, I'm gonna book it now, and you end up booking and it's either for the wrong day, or it's the wrong time, or it's a non-refundable ticket, or all of these things. Like, when you're booking, be really, really careful to double check, not just with yourself, but also with the people that you're going with. So you might think, yeah, this time is 100% right, but it might not be what was discussed with your friend or your family or your travel partner or whoever you're gonna go meet out where you're going. So always, always double check with not just your own details, but everyone around you, that you're booking the right thing. So the third biggest mistake that I make all the time is not anticipating rain. When I go somewhere hot, or anywhere that's not the UK, I just, for some reason, just don't think it's gonna rain. Like, it rains all the time here, and I just kind of think that Britain is an exclusively rainy country and nowhere else gets bad weather. So when we went to New Zealand and Australia, I was so surprised when it rained a lot. I felt cheated. Like, this isn't right. And my wardrobe wasn't right. So it was raining loads, and I didn't have anything to wear that was suitable. I had shorts and I had vest tops, and I didn't have anything waterproof really, which was a big mistake for me. So I ended up having to go buy a load of suitable warm and rain gear, which, when you're on a budget traveling, isn't ideal. You want to keep that money for a really cool experience, or to do a skydive or whatever, not to buy a cagoule. The fourth biggest mistake is underplanning on a trip. So not doing the research and not thinking about what you want to do in the time that you're there. If you've got a short space of time to see a place or be in a certain country, you want to make sure that you get the most out of it. So if you've not done any research at all and you kind of just show up on the day, you're not going to experience the best parts of that place that because you don't know about it. So the fifth biggest mistake, conversely, is overplanning, because you can also spend so much time researching and have such a clear idea of exactly what you want to do and when, that you end up missing out on the spontaneous fun things that suddenly just pop up out of nowhere when you're having this amazing time on your trip. And then because you've already got all these plans, and maybe you've booked stuff in advance and you've already paid for it, you don't really want to go off course, but then you could be missing out on something amazing. So although it's really important to plan and research on your trip, it's also good to be a bit more fluid and have that time that you can be spontaneous. The 6th biggest travel mistake that I've seen made countless times is not taking a spare pair of clothes in your carry-on bag. So then when the worst scenario happens, and it happens more than you think, of your suitcase or your luggage didn't arrive with the plane, or you're getting a connecting flight and it went to Doha and you're in Thailand, then you don't have any clothes and you've literally just got probably a camera and an iPhone, and that's not ideal for when you get somewhere. So what I always do is I pack a spare pair of clothes and a swimming costume and some underwear in my carry-on bag. And I also have like a mini toothbrush and just like miniature cosmetics and stuff and some wet wipes, so that if the worst happens then I'm prepared. But also it's quite nice, like if you are on a long flight and you want to have a quick change and just get into something a bit more comfortable or just feel a bit fresher, then having that spare pair of clothes is really handy, and I 100% recommend doing that on any long haul flight and short haul, because if you're going for a weekend away and you've got one outfit, then that's not ideal either. So the 7th biggest travel mistake that you can make is to exchange your money at the airport. Airports are notorious for giving the worst exchange rates. You will make so much less money than you would if you had bought your currency in advance, or if you use a card like the Revolut card that I have, that I speak about a lot on my blog. Links here if you want to read about that. It's gold. You can sometimes book your money in advance and pick it up at the airport. I know that TravelX do this, and I've got some really good exchange rates through TravelX by booking in advance and then picking the money up. But actually buying the money in the airport is a no-no and a big travel mistake. The 8th biggest travel mistake I've seen is forgetting about visas. Now, they're pretty important if you want to get in a country, and I think sometimes when you've got a British passport, you take for granted that you can pretty much go anywhere, except you can't. And there's some countries where you can't get in without a visa, and you need to prepare these and get these in advance. So always make sure that you double check whether the country that you're going to next requires you to have a visa or some sort of permit before you can enter. The 9th biggest travel mistake that I've made, and I bet you've made, and I bet everyone's probably made at some point, is leaving your chargers plugged into the sockets at your hotel or somewhere where you're charging them. It's so easy to do because you're in a rush and you've been charging your phone overnight and you're getting up and it's 4 in the morning or whatever, and you're running out of that hotel room. You don't always check for these things, especially if you've packed before, but oh gosh, it would be so annoying if you lost your charger. So always double check, not just under the bed, also the plug sockets. So the 10th biggest travel mistake, and I've made this more times than I can count, is trying to fit too many activities into a small space of time. And I actually did this on my massive round the world adventure, where we had a limited time in every place, and even just as a kind of route overall, I wanted to do everything I could in that country. So when we got to New Zealand, we had 3 weeks and it was really tight, but we wanted to do both islands, so we did on the Kiwi experience, and it was amazing. But we had like 1 night in each place at one point, and it was really exhausting, and you don't really get a feel for it either, and we just felt like we sort of wasted the time in a way because we couldn't do it properly. If you're going somewhere and you know you're in a tight schedule, don't try to fit it all in. I know that there's a mentality of, oh, but I might never come to this country again in my lifetime. Well, maybe not, but if you really loved it, then you probably will go back at some point, and then you can do the other things that you missed out on the first time. But it's not worth not experiencing it to the fullest just to see more. So the 11th biggest mistake that can happen a lot is not being open to a country's culture and going and just eating the food that you crave from home and not getting involved in the culture of the country that you're going to see and experience. So unfortunately, this applies a lot to my boyfriend, who just wants to have his bacon and eggs in the morning for breakfast, and he likes his ham and cheese toasties, and if he can't find that food then it really stresses him out. but he kind of needs to remember that he's in a different country and he's listening to this right now and I can feel him hating me. It's true though, isn't it?
Yes.
So being open to that country's culture is so important, especially with the food. I mean, yeah, you might not like it, but so what? You've tried it, at least you know. You can't just look at something and go, oh God, I wouldn't ever eat that and would never do that. When you're there, you might as well just go for it. So, number 12. Kind of also applies to my boyfriend, and it is spending too many days drunk or hungover. I mean, obviously when you're going travelling, it can be so fun and exciting, especially if you go with a big group of friends, but spending the whole time drinking and then being hungover and not being able to do anything the next day is kind of a waste of being there. I mean, you can do that at home and you're just sort of wasting your time to see the country for what it is and having a good time. I mean, no, don't get me wrong, you should go out and you should have a great time, but just don't do it all the time. Number 13 is not having respect for somewhere and not having respect for its culture. So I guess this comes back down to what I was saying about being open to the culture, is also respecting that culture and ensuring that you're not being too leery or too loud or whatever, and even just turning your nose up at things. Like if you're asked to cover up in public, then just do it, don't pull a face. That's what their country expects from its citizens, and it's also what it expects from you. Just respect the country's culture, you'll feel better for it, you'll feel more immersed in it, and you'll have a better time for it. So the 14th biggest mistake that I made, and I'm sure that many people have made too, is burnout. So this kind of fits into what I was saying earlier about trying to fit in too many activities at once. You end up burning out and you end up feeling so exhausted that you then can't do much more, and you kind of resent seeing things, and you get to the point where you're like, I've seen a temple so much that you don't want to go to another one, and that's a shame. So keep it light, don't try to fit in too much, and you won't get burnout, because it is one of the worst things to get if you're travelling. So the 15th biggest travel mistake is staying too much in your hotel room. Kind of related to what I was saying about burnout, where you get to the point where you really don't want to do anymore, all you want to do is watch TV, stay in bed and just snuggle down. But you miss out so much on some really exciting things if you spend too much time watching HBO. I mean, we could have done so much more when we went to Cambodia, but we were just kind of tired from partying and just wanted to just lay in bed and just do nothing but watch TV. And now when I look back on that trip, I feel like I could have done so much more in Cambodia and appreciated the country more than I did, because I spent too much time in the hotel room. So get out there, do things. You are travelling to get out of your comfort zone, and I know that the hotel room can sometimes be the only place you want to be and just be snuggly and away from it all, but put yourself out there and you'll not regret it. So the 16th biggest travel mistake, for first time travellers especially, is being too trusting. Although it's good to be open to culture and talking to people and staying open-minded, I would also say try to not be so naive, and you have to keep your wits about you and definitely keep your bags close to you, because if you're being approached a lot, there's especially some countries where scams can happen really easily. So don't be trusting, don't hang your bag off the back of your chair in a restaurant, don't put your bag down on the floor in a restaurant or anywhere for that matter. Always keep your belongings close to you and don't trust the people around you not to steal from you. Which leads me on to point 17 of having valuables and money on show. It's a big no-no and a massive travel mistake that you can make. I mean, it goes without saying and it's pretty obvious, and you probably wouldn't do it at home, but even just whipping your iPhone out, or you're having your camera like hanging from your neck all the time, it kind of invites people to see that you've got assets, and they'll probably want to take them from you if you're flashing it all the time or you've got too much cash hanging around. So keep your wallet in your front pocket, don't keep it in the back, and just keep an eye on all your possessions. So the 18th biggest travel mistake that happens a lot is not budgeting. So you're a weekend millionaire when you get there and you're just flashing the cash like, woo, I'm gonna buy this, that, all those drinks, and then it comes to the end of the week and suddenly you realise you've got 3 weeks left travelling, but you don't have any money, and then all of a sudden you've got to live on like rice and stay in the worst hostel ever with cockroaches. and that's not ideal. So have a budget, think about how much money you've got total and how you can spend that each day. It's good to keep a budget in mind and make sure that you're on top of things with how much you're spending. So the 19th biggest travel mistake happened to my friend, and I hope it doesn't happen to you because it's pretty much a nightmare. And that is taking your passport on a night out with you because you think it's going to be safer with you than at the hotel or your hostel, and then your bag gets stolen or you lose it because you get too drunk or whatever happens, but then suddenly you don't have a passport, and that is the worst thing that could happen. So taking your passport on a night out really isn't wise. Keep it in a safe, keep it locked up, and then just don't take it out with you. Don't trust your drunk self. Nuh-uh. Leading on to the last and also a very important 20th travel mistake is not having emergency cash. Emergency cash for your passport going missing, for example, or being scammed and suddenly having no money left. Having emergency cash is really important when you're traveling, and it has to be kept apart. And it's not emergency, oh no, I need another beer. It's literally like, you do not touch this money, and it is in cash for in case the worst happens. Keep it somewhere really weird and different from your other places, like in a sock. That's my mum's advice. I don't really wear socks when I'm in a hot country, so that doesn't quite work for me, but I normally keep it like tucked in a bra or just in a different compartment of where my passport is, separate from my purse with all my money in, to make sure that I've always got some cash if the worst thing happened. So there you have it. Those are my 20 biggest travel mistakes and my advice for how to avoid them. I hope you found this helpful and that it makes you think twice when you're planning your own trips, or maybe you're away right now, and I hope you like the video. If you do, please subscribe and give this video a big thumbs up. Thanks.